When I was growing up, my father would wake us kids up in the morning. He would come into each of our rooms, switch on the light, and call out, "Rise and shine." Especially when I was a teenager, I dreaded those words. And if I didn't respond, sometimes he would come over and fling off the covers. Yikes. Cold and dark in the winter. The prophet Isaiah, speaking to people in exile, speaks those words to us today. "Arise, shine, for your light has come." We read these encouraging words as part of our Christmas celebration, along with several elements of the nativity stories from Luke and Matthew. We read of stars guiding shepherds and sages to find the Christ child. We read of angels proclaiming peace among people of goodwill. So we get up on a dark morning and we come to church. We come together in person or virtually in a beautifully decorated place with candles lit to disperse the darkness and sunlight streaming through stained glass. We sing familiar carols proclaiming joy to the world, and we exchange God's peace with each other. With the shepherds and the sages, we come to see the child born and lying in a manger. We come to see the source of light promised by the prophets. Perhaps you were a little disturbed to hear more of the story from Matthew than we usually read at this time. The Magi come to Herod for advice. They follow the star and find the child, but they trick Herod and do not come back to his palace. Usually, that's all we read on this day. But Matthew has more for us. He tells of a jealous and murderous king who orders the destruction of all babies under 2 years of age, trying desperately to destroy the rival to his power. Joseph and Mary become refugees, escaping to Egypt to save their child. Matthew links this narrative to texts from the Hebrew Scriptures, making the connection to God's constant signs of hope and light in the darkness we create around ourselves. The murderous acts of Herod find a parallel in the book of Exodus, when Pharaoh ordered Hebrew babies killed because he feared their growing numbers. The infant Moses is hidden in a basket among the marshy reeds and is saved and secretly raised by Pharaoh's servants. Moses, the one in that window right over there, becomes the one who leads the children of Israel out of slavery in Egypt to a new land of God's promise. Matthew points us to the baby in the manger as a new Moses, one who will embody God's promise of life in the midst of death. So I find this part of the story comforting, though of course upsetting. For me, it tells the whole story. It reminds me that God does not desert us, that in the darkness in which we find ourselves, the darkness of violence, oppression, jealousy, disease, God is working for our good. God is offering signs of the love with which we were created, the divine spark in each of us, as signs of the light that God continues to promise for all of us. We know the darkness. We are complicit in systems that repress and degrade some people and preserve the privilege of others. We see the suffering of wars waged by jealousy and greed. We are part of a civilization that exploits the earth for its resources, leaving pollution, barren land, and ugliness behind us. Our political systems are rocked by deception and selfish use of power. We live in homes and communities torn by violence, anger, and broken promises. We are ambushed by viruses and life crippling diseases. But we come here with the promise of light. And as we begin to see the light of God's love through Jesus, we see ourselves and our world as they are, in darkness and in need of help. We come to the light now not out of fear for the consequences of staying in the darkness, but drawn by the love which offers us forgiveness and wholeness. We learn to stand with each other for comfort and support as together we look for God. The church, as an expression of Christ's light in the world, exists not to berate people for their failings, but to invite them into the loving presence of God. Together we experience the power of God's forgiveness to liberate us from our failings and give us the strength and courage to confront the world's darkness. Here we find a community in which we receive power from God's Spirit, the Spirit of love lying as a newborn child, stronger than the power of hate. We come here to see the light of dawn. The hints of forgiveness, the glimpses of love we see around us are signs painting the sky of the sunrise with faint colors. We arise in the darkness. The darkness is deep, but it cannot overpower the light. God's promise is sure. Joy to the world. Your light has come. Amen.